The title of our session today is Help Me Focus, Best Practices to Assist Students on Focus, Topics, Literature, and Meaning. And our presenter today is going to be Dr. Yvette Gormley, who is a contributing faculty member in the DBA program in the College of Management and Technology. So she's going to take over in just a moment, and I'm going to quickly just do a GoToWebinar overview to make sure everyone's comfortable using the tools. If you see on the left side of the screen, your control panel most likely looks like this. This is the full view, but there may be times when you want to have this move over to the right like this. All you have to do is just click that arrow, and that lets you go back and forth between the full view you just saw and then the collapsed view I'm showing on the screen in case there's text in the PowerPoint slide. You can also click that button again, like I said, and then the full control panel will return back to you so you can use all the controls in the software. If you've not already done so, you may want to just click that audio setup link that will let you test your speakers and your microphone to make sure everything's working properly so you can hear and be able to participate in the session. There's a couple ways that you can participate. First way is when you ask your questions and you want to share your thoughts, you can do that via text. Just send them in this way through the text box, and you can share with us that way. Also, you can click the raise hand button. That'll let us know you have a question or you want to share your thoughts, and we'll call on you and unmute your microphone. Now, to cut down on background noise, just so you can hear our presenter clearly, I have put everyone's microphone on the muted setting just to cut down on background noise. If you do have any technical support needs, you can use the phone number you see on the screen or just send those to the questions area and we'll be able to assist you there. Also want to just direct you over to the questions area. I put in a link to the closed captioning so that way you can access that if you want to participate in the webinar that way. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn things over to our presenter, Dr. Yvette Gormley, who I mentioned is a contributing faculty member in the College of Management Technology in our DBA program. So Yvette, whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, hello everyone. Hope everybody's doing well today. I know I'm here on the East Coast, and Scott and I were just talking about how beautiful it is out there. You're probably like me, you're going to be staying in here grading papers. Excuse me. Which kind of brings us to our topic today. Help me focus best practices to assist students on focus, literature, and meaning. And I'd like to welcome everyone today. We're going to have a little bit on APA, and we're going to have a lot of humor thrown in. Scott, why don't we go ahead and pull up the first pre-poll.
Okay, it's on the screen for everyone to select their option.
Okay, we've got a little pre-poll we want to start. Excuse me. What are the greatest, or what do you think is the greatest writing hurdle for students? And we have different selections here. You can get misguided preparation, proper workspace, lack of discipline, fear of failure, or they don't know how to start.
Okay, looks like we have about 60% have voted. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Looks like everyone has responded. And Yvette, you should see the results there on the right.
I do. And you know, they all kind of go hand in hand. Every single one of these are reasons, but the number one reason that students do not know how to get started on writing or to write is because of, I apologize for that, let me see if I can get this off, is because they don't know how to start. They have no idea where to start with their writing. I apologize for that. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
okay,
we can hear
you. Okay, good. It's because they lack focus. With a show of hands on your dashboard, how many of you struggle to get your students to post substantial posts that show focus and meaning? How many of you can get the students to go, or can't get the students to go past the good post factor? Or you ask them, you know, what do you think about this? I think it's great. How many people have a problem with that? I can't see the hand raise. I'm not, I I don't know if you can tell me, Scott, where we're going on that.
Sure. Yep, it looks like about half the attendees have their hands raised for that.
Good. Well, those that haven't raised their hands, if you're still out there, I would love to hear your secrets. But one of the things that I have found that's really helped with this is something called the Kipling Method. Now, Kipling used a set of questions to help trigger ideas and solve problems, and he immortalized them in a poem. He said, I have 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. I call them what and where and when and how and why and who. Now, these questions can be used as a stimulus to get students to get thinking, get their thinking going, get their focus going in many, many situations. The actual concept behind this method has come in and out of vogue really since the 1st century. It was later known as the Kipling Method, a little bit before the 1940s, and was taught widely in schools in the 1940s. But later on, it was determined old-fashioned. Well, I say bring this back, and this is what I love about this method. By asking these questions, the who, what, when, how, where, and who, you are challenging the students' current perceptions, and you're forcing them to ask new questions. Now, let me say that again. You are challenging the students' current perceptions, and you're forcing the students to ask new questions. What a concept, right? You can use this method when you need a student to see a problem from a different perspective, or when you want students to generate new ideas, or maybe perhaps in the process of selecting an idea for future development. In the DBA program, I use this method consistently to help my students choose their research topic. So besides what I just said, why does this work? Why does this work? Well, I'll tell you why. Any questions will work because we as humans are conditioned to answer questions that we are asked. Now I'm going to repeat that. Any questions will work because we as humans are conditioned to answer questions that we are asked. Questions challenge us. And social rules say it is impolite not to reply. It's human nature to answer questions. The Kipling Method is also known as the 6 W's. I know that kind of goes against everything we're talking today because there's really an H in there. And you don't have to conquer all of them. I usually just have my students do 5 of them. And there are many uses for this. You can use it in discussion posts. It replaces that old good post factor. It's already used in journalism, a lot of times in research, and has been used for years in police investigations. And you can expand on the concept. In other words, tell the student, do not just tell me what happened, give examples. Compare and contrast the who, what, when, why, how, and where's. Here are some examples. Who is it about? What happened? When does it take place? By the way, when can be a time or an event. Where does it take place? Why did it happen? How did it happen? Of course, you can use this in any tense. You can use it in present tense, past, or future. By using this method, the students' responses cannot be a simple yes or no. We have that so often. Okay, if you say yes or no, what about yes or no? Tell me, expand on this post. Tell me the who, what, when, where, why, or hows. You can also use this in brainstorming sessions with your students. Let them talk. Look for key themes or words. Tell them, give me a sentence, start with maybe, tell me a couple sentences about the who. Tell me a couple sentences about the what, and so on. And then you can narrow it down to maybe just a couple of words until you have fine-tuned it. I'm going to give you an example. And you can change the order of this any way you need to understand the problem. For example, what is the problem? My suitcase is too heavy. Where is it happening? At the airport. When is it happening? In the evening, coming back from France. Why is it happening? Because I bought too much wine. How can you overcome this problem? Get the wine shipped. Who do you need to get involved? Well, the winery will do it for me. When will you know you've solved the problem? When the wine arrives at home. There's other ways you can expand on this too. You can ask maybe, how much? Why not? What time? Which place? Who can? Where else? If you can't get the students to do this in their postings or in their papers, these are things that you can do to stimulate the conversation in discussion posts or whatever. Tell us some more. Tell us the who, what, why, where, when, and how. The sky's the limit. Have the students use this method as a checklist for their submissions. I have my students, okay, did you cover all of these? Did you cover the 6 W's? This is a real-life example from one of my students. I presented the 6 W's to him in a brainstorming session using this method. He could not come up with focus. One of the hardest things in the world, I know for my DBA students, and I know all students in general, is to come up with focus for their research topic. So we did a brainstorming session. I just did what I told you earlier. I did a couple sentences, brought them down to finally just a couple of words, and this is what we came up with. And out of this, he had his research topic sentence, exploring best practice skills to predict uncertainties in venture capital investment decision making. This all came about out of about a 30-minute brainstorming session. He went from having ideas to having a focused topic in less than 30 minutes. I call my students the 30-minute guarantee. And of course you can fine-tune it anyway, but at least it gives them a topic, some place to know how to get started. Now, how can we help the students stay focused? Well, organization goes a long ways towards the ability to focus. I am a very big fan of Post-it notes. My office probably looks like that 3M commercial with the squirrel. I love that commercial. I have my students put their research topic on a Post-it note or something similar and put it on their computer monitor. They put it on their, I've even had ones use it in a rear view mirror. I told them not to do that because I was afraid he was going to wreck. They do it on the in their mirror in their bathroom when they're getting ready in the morning. And whenever they're looking at references or they're thinking about their topic, I tell them that look at each article or think about each thought and then look at their Post-it note. Does it apply? You know, so often when our students are getting into research, they'll find another good idea and then they'll go off into that tangent. Or they'll find another idea and then they go in another direction. By having this Post-it note and keeping that topic sentence available to them all the time will help them focus. By the way, there are e-versions that you can download to your desktop also. They've got alarms on it and everything. So there's different ways you can do that, especially if those that are using the iPads. I also have students set up a filing system. I've got some ideas on that we won't go up today, but you know, feel free to contact me afterwards. But I have them do a paper filing system and I have them do an electronic filing system. Why both? Because if they are like me, and most of these are adult learners, I sure did a lot of writing and reading at carpools or at soccer practices, and that way I had my paper copy with me. Also, check out the Walding Writing and Research Center. There are some great tips and tutorials and templates there. Graphic organizers can be a great help for a student's focus, even brainstorming. And there's so many out there, and there's loads of free ones. I personally love one called Inspiration. It's been around a long, long time, and yeah, I think it's under $10. And they actually have a kids version called Kidspiration. In case you're attending today based on that parental hat, or perhaps you are in the School of Education and you're grooming the teachers of tomorrow. It's an awesome resource. Other keys to helping a student to focus is something called engagement. For example, you can use engagement in the form of analogies, simplicity, or even humor. When I try to explain to my DBA students as an analogy the difference between a conceptual and a theoretical framework, I could use the analogy that says something like, let's say you're giving a theoretical framework would be when you're given the winning numbers for a lottery ticket. But after you get the money, you're left with the dilemma of what are you going to do with the money? In contrast, that conceptual framework is kind of like a jelly mold. You pour your findings into the mold, and the mold gives back the findings. Then there's simplicity. Bring things down to simplistic values, then build to scholarly thought. I've taught many a business case in undergraduate school relating to the topic of my lemonade stand I had as a kid. I had competition across the street. My friend Cindy, she had the side of the street where there was more traffic flow, lesson in location. Her mother was an artist and her father a skilled craftsman. So she had this beautifully constructed stand, something like on the slide, actually it looked even better, with beautiful signage and bright eye-catching colors. And guess what she had? She had presentation. Her father owned a farm and he had connections with some growers in Florida. So she was able to get a fresher product. I had to buy mine at the grocery store. So not only did she have it was cost effective, she had product quality, and she had branding. She even went as far as paying a commission to some of the fellow neighborhood kids, and a pretty good one at that, to set up stands in other areas of the neighborhood. Guess what? She had outsourcing and franchise. Okay, so you get the picture. By the way, my stand was a Little Red Wagon. I was portable, but that's about it. To get your excuse me, to get your teaching point across, teach with simplicities and build to scholarly thought. I really think this is the key to the intimidation factor that a lot of our students feel, especially when they're coming back to school after being gone for a few years and maybe just attending college for the first time and are adult learners. They're going to be very intimidating. And they're going to hear a lot of these key words and these concepts, and it's going to be foreign to them until they get to know them. But if you can give them an analogy to relate to, then it makes it a lot less intimidating and will help with their focus. Now, as I stated before, bring humor into your lesson. You guys ready for this one? I cannot strive this point enough. This stuff can really get boring. And I'm not even going to do a poll right now to see how many of you have already fell asleep so far in this webinar. Hopefully no one. But humor will not only make the experience more enjoyable, but guess what? Humor increases the retention of meaning. Let me repeat that. Humor increases the retention of meaning. Even though my doctorate's in business, and I actually have a master's in education, but my undergraduate degree is in biology. What does that mean to me these days? We all switch career paths, things like that. But I will tell you, even though I don't use the biology degree today, to this day, I still remember the 12 cranial nerves in the brain due to a funny rhyme. Doesn't mean a thing for me today, but I still remember it because it was humorous. I'm not going to tell you how many years ago that was. Some folks over at the University of Chico developed something called the CRAP test. Yes, you heard me right, the CRAP test. It is a list of questions to determine if literature is reliable. I love this. I'll ask my students, is this crap? And they better say yes. We have a lot of fun with this. It's a big, big joke. And brings a lot of humor to the discussions and really sets things at ease to generate a really good learning environment. So what does CRAP stand for? Let's start with currency. Currency is the timeliness of the information. When was the information published or posted? Has the information been revised or updated? Does your topic require current information, or will older sources work as well? Are the links to the website or to the journal article functional? Relevance. Relevance is the importance of the information for your needs. Does the information relate to your topic? Does it answer your question? Who is the intended audience? Is the information at an appropriate level? Is it not too elementary or maybe even too advanced for your needs? Authority. Who is the source of information? What are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations? You'll see this in a minute, but there's a big difference between the website whitehouse.gov and whitehouse.org. Is the author qualified to write on the topic? Is it a blog? Is it opinion? Is it bias? Is there contact information such as the publisher's email address on the website? Does the URL reveal anything about the author or the source? For example, there's a .com, .edu is usually education, .gov is usually government, .org is mostly nonprofits, and there's .net. Accuracy. The reliability, truthfulness, and correctness of the content. Again, where does the information come from? Was the information supported by evidence? Is it a Wikipedia? Has the information been peer-reviewed? Does the language or tone seem unbiased or free of emotion? Or is it just an opinionated source? Lastly, purpose. What is the purpose of information? Is it to inform? Is it to teach us? Are they trying to sell something to me? Or is it just for entertainment? Or is it to persuade us to do something? Is it fact? Is it opinion? Maybe it's just propaganda. Are there any political or ideological or cultural or religious or institutional or personal biases? And how can that affect who we're writing to? There's a web link down here that includes this and more. I absolutely love this site. So how do you know what to base the crap on? Well, one site you can look at, which we'll go to, is called Tips for Better Browsing. Now, these websites can be used as a wonderful icebreaker, and I'll go into that more in just a minute. If you go to that website, it's an awesome website. You'll see a lot of information here. And I love it, including misinformation, false information, and sheer fabrication. So it tells you a little bit about determining the authorship. It tells you about the publishing body. Again, you can go into what these things mean, and the next slide will go even further. Point or viewer bias. What was the author's goal? Authority, referable to and or knowledge of the literature. What do they know? Who are they? Are they experts in the field, or is it somebody's opinion? Accuracy or verifiability of details, and currency. There's even lesson plans here that you can even use. Like I said, I use this a lot of times as an icebreaker. It's a wonderful, wonderful source. The next website I'm going to take you to is called Evaluating Websites. Again, I use the combination of these as an icebreaker. This is a great website. It's by USC Buford's Library. And I love the first part here about checking the source. You know, you can expect to find everything on the web. Silly sites, hoaxes, frivolous and serious personal pages, you know, et cetera, et cetera. How do you sort it all out? This is an awesome, awesome website. First thing it does is it teaches you how to read a web address. They even broke down their own web address to tell you exactly what everything means. You know, it tells you the domains, it tells you the subdirectories, it tells you the folders, it tells you the extensions. What does it all mean when you see a website? And how can that affect the reliability of the information you're retrieving from that site? It goes into all the domain names. It tells you how to determine page authorship. What is the authenticity? It tells you how to check vital information. When was it last updated? I always get a little leery if I don't see a name or address or an email or a link or a comment section on a website. It also helps you to check the content. This is kind of what I mentioned here before. There is a big difference. It tells you the web page stability. Very important in credibility. And this is even great. It gives you assignments. Assignments you can either use in your classroom, you can teach others to use in their class, or assignments that you can use as icebreakers. I'm going to go one more step further. Creating a search strategy. I've had many, many students tell me, I cannot find this information. I've tried the resources, I've done everything I can, the information's just not out there. Well, the first thing I tell them to use is use a thesaurus, because there are many different keywords that they may be missing. For example, in our country, we say a hood of a car. Over in the UK, they say a bonnet. In our country, we say a flashlight. Over there, they say a torch. Maybe they're missing out on a great literature search by not using the correct words. And I believe now the thesaurus is located right on our Walden webpage. So it tells you how. It tells you how to look for the information. It tells you about defaults. It tells you about stop words and how to create search statements. It even gives you assignments for your students. And even goes on further to talk about search tips. So you can look at this at your leisure. By the way, all of these websites are going to be at the end of the slides that you're going to receive in a form of a Webliography. Again, perhaps it's an icebreaker. You can have the students read the information located in these links and evaluate the websites based on previous resources. Ask the student, do they pass the CRAB test? Instead of a simple yes or no, have them go through each one of those categories. Or have them go to those other two web pages that I just showed and bounce the information off of that. It is an awesome icebreaker. I've never had a student not just rave about what they've learned from this. This can be a great exercise. Absolutely love the feline reaction to bearded men. I think the title there, anyone who's ever done research will love it. I think the title there is for researchers that want to laugh first and think second. Great, fun website. APA. A little bit of information here on APA. We could go on, as you know, for years. I do not know of any student that has not been challenged by APA. Proper citing is absolutely crucial to the credibility, reliability, and meaning of content. It is crucial. I've included here an example of something I see often. A case study design is most appropriate for my research methodology. Big pet peeve of mine. Yin did not say this about this student's study or my study in this case. Yin did not say this. This is a case study design is most appropriate for my research methodology. Yin did not say this. This takes away from credibility. Scott, will you bring up that second poll?
Sure. And this is the one about the citing?
No, this would be the one about the the site was shoe on citing. I'm sorry, about which of the following cannot be cited. Yes.
Yes. Okay, sure. All right. Everyone should see it on the screen now.
Okay, we've got another poll I'm going to throw out at you. We're going to get a little more humor here. Which of the following cannot be cited in APA? Now, you can vote for more than once. Social media, such as Twitter, Facebook, etc. Mobile apps. Spirit communications. Yes, that's what it says, spirit communications. Or smartphones and watches. You can vote for more than one.
All right, looks like we've had a couple votes in. We'll leave it open for just another couple seconds, and then we'll go ahead and close the poll. All right, looks like most people voted, so we'll go ahead and close the results. And Yvonne, you should now see the results on the right.
Awesome. Okay, so let's start with number one. Social media can be cited per APA. By the way, if you don't find this in the APA 6th book, there are updates available as an e-version that they added in. I think I've got some background noise. I don't know if these mics open. But there's some updates available in the e-version. And I actually download it to my Kindle. And they'll cover some of the things that have come up since the book was published. So you can cite social media per APA. And there's 3 ways to cite social media. You can cite it, and this is all in the APA book, or probably the electronic version, generally with a URL, as a personal communication, or the typical APA-style in-text citation and reference list entry. Again, all this will be in your APA book. All right, number 2, mobile apps. Yes, you can cite a mobile app. Mobile applications or apps are a type of software. So you would cite as a software. Make sure you know, this is very important when you do the cite, make sure you know whether the rights holder is an individual or a group or a company, because that's going to make a difference in how that site looks. And again, examples are in the APA. Also, the date in your reference. It should reflect the version that you used when it was released. So the release date of the version you used. Even though previous versions may have come out in different years. Now, if the app is a reference work, like a dictionary or encyclopedia or even a medical reference, it's also possible to cite an entry in the app. Again, just like you would in standard APA. All right, number 3, 25% said you cannot cite spirit communications. Folks, I hate to tell you, you can cite spirit's communication. Funny thing. I subscribe to a site, and I highly recommend it, something called the APA blog. And again, that will be in the Webliography at the end of the slides when you receive them. They have almost daily, or several times a week, an update where people have wrote in and asked for common problems in APA. And last Halloween I got this, and I had to look at it a couple of times because I really thought it was a joke. It was a Halloween special. They had actually received a letter from someone to the APA experts. It said, "Dear Style experts, I need to cite a book that was dictated by a spirit to a medium. Who's the author here? I was thinking it would be a spirit, but now that I put it into my reference list, it looks kind of weird." And it was signed, Spooked in Spokane. APA wrote back to the individual and said, "Dear Spooked, Non-corporeal beings have dictated a number of bestsellers, yet they never seem to cash their own royalty checks. For bibliographic purposes, the author is the person through whom the work entered the corporeal realm. Crazy. All right, take, for example, the work of Jane Roberts. Now, in the 1960s, Jane began to publish communications she received in a trance state. And let me tell you what she called it. From an, quote, energy, personality, essence, no longer focused in physical matter, unquote, and his name was Seth. Now, the next few decades, dozens of volumes were published, and some which were edited by her husband even after death. Now, I don't think anything's ever been written about whether or not she's still consulted on this. But trans-dictated works are not limited to the literary world. A British woman named Rosemary Brown, claimed that the spirits of composers to include Beethoven and Chopin presented new music to her that she had comprised in the spirit world. Yes, folks, this is true. So if this happens to you, make sure you're properly citing this as a music composition. Now, after that, a little craziness, if you're still with us, physically, or should I say pun, spiritually, the answer is number 4. 50% of you marked number 4. You cannot cite a smartwatch or a smartphone. The rule for citing: sources are cited when they point readers to a retrievable source. Let me say that again. Sources are cited when they point readers to a retrievable source. Yes, even spirit communications. We have to work on meaning. Are your students getting their point across to the audience? Is their writing portraying the meaning they actually intend? One way to help with this is to avoid and to address generalities in writing. I tell my students, and they'll drive them crazy, avoid the word it in every form thereof. Itself, it's a general word. What is it, for lack of a better word? They, their, and them. Whenever possible, avoid. I know there's times you cannot. The author, the researcher, always avoid this. Which author? Which researcher? Sometimes I see students say, some researchers. Okay, who are they? Again, avoid all vague words like important, but, and Grammarly is an awesome, awesome source to pick some of these out, especially the vague words. Writing must be specific to portray the intended meaning. Vague words will take away from a scholarly tone. I have my students use Grammarly for everything. I require my students to run all their work through Grammarly. And I actually had a student in the Middle East, which I think is so awesome. She actually was an English major, but not this kind of English, more like English literature. And she had so much trouble that she started trying to find every piece of paper, every article, newspaper articles, anything she could find written in English in her country. And she ran all of them through Grammarly so she could get feedback and learn what was expected and how to write in better English. What a great use. And by the way, Grammarly, there's a Grammarly add-on that's free in our Writing Center. Point of view. We've got a closing exercise I want to do with you, and then we'll have time for questions and comments. This is something called attribution, and it's to bring the point home to you. And you can adapt something like this for your class also, but this is for you. I want to share this with you, and I call it a lesson in attribution. And you can even do this with your students in a conference call. I want all of you guys to close your eyes for a minute. Now, don't fall asleep on me, but I want you to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, I'm going to read something to you. And as I read this, I want you to imagine, everybody's got their eyes closed, right, because I can't see you. I want you to imagine that it's 1933, and you're in Berlin. You're outside the Kroll Opera House. Now, Adolf Hitler has just walked out to tell you the following. Of course, you're in the midst of a crowd, and everyone is listening, eyes closed. There will be those who say that it can't be done, those who would try and stop us, but we must persevere knowing that God is with us. Think about that for a minute. Now, keep your eyes closed. It's now 1944, and you're a soldier, and you're getting ready to embark on the Battle of the Bulge. And General George Patton tells you, as you stand amongst the troops, the following. Keep your eyes closed. There will be those who say that it can't be done, those who would try and stop us, but we must persevere, knowing that God is with us. Now lastly, eyes still closed, I want you to imagine it's 1963, and you're in Washington, D.C., and you hear the Reverend Martin Luther King say the following. There will be those who say that it can't be done, those who would try and stop us, but we must persevere, knowing that God is with us. Okay, open your eyes. What did you hear when I just read that same paragraph to you? I'm going to assume when you heard this through the words of Hitler, perhaps fear. When you heard Patton, maybe pride, energy, or patriotism. When you heard Martin Luther King, perhaps you felt hope, or maybe even inspired. My question to you is, what point of view will your students' writing portray? Or even your writing? What audience are you writing to? What will the reader hear? Are your students writing to a point of view that's going to be understood by all? Or is it going to depend on the culture or the experience or the background of the reader? When your students pick up a journal article or read a book, what point of view are they going to read it from? This is so important for meaning, for focus, and for clarity. Our students must write, we must write, with focus for clarity, credibility, and meaning to get our point across. As you all know in this day and time, writing is a major hurdle for students, whether it's in elementary, high school, or college. I hope that some of these things that I've talked about today will help you be able to generate more action in your classroom, that maybe you can help, if you can just help one student become a better writer, that would be absolutely awesome, one student at a time. I want you all to think about what you've learned here. How are you going to apply this to your deliverables in the classroom? What's your call to action? What did you learn? How are you going to go out and make a difference in the world? And with that, I'm going to open up to questions.
All right. As a reminder, you can click
Scott?
the... Yes. Okay. So as a reminder, you can send your thoughts in through the questions area. Just type them in. Or if you want to share out loud, we'd love to hear your voice in the discussion. Just click the raise hand button, and we will go ahead and call on you. So we'll give everyone just a minute. I know all of us type at different speeds, so I'll give you just a moment to go ahead and type.
And while you're typing, I would absolutely love to know, and you have my information on the first slide, my name, and of course you know how the Walden email is set up. But I'd love to hear about your best practices. I'd love to hear what you would like to see next, if there's something I can take this and apply it to possibly a new webinar later. I'd like to know what you'd like to see, what best practices you need, anything like that, especially if you have something you would like to share. I would love to hear and be able to pass on.
All right. Give it just another moment for any additional thoughts to come through. So far, we don't have anything. We'd love to really hear from you all, so feel free to share your thoughts.
Hope they didn't fall asleep by having them close their eyes. Any comments?
Okay, that doesn't look like anything came in.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for attending. As Yvette mentioned, we will send out the PowerPoint as follow-up so that you can see the slides and use all the links to all the great resources Yvette recommended. And we'll also include a link to the feedback survey and the recording of today's webinar so you can review that as you wish. And it looks like we did just have a couple of thank yous to you, Yvette.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you for the great resources. I think they'll be very useful. And Elsie also says thanks for a good presentation, Yvette. So
absolutely.
It looks like a lot of people took away some really good ideas. And Elsie, it looks like you have your hand raised. I will go ahead and unmute you. Elsie, I've unmuted you. Did you want to share your thoughts?
Oh, I thought I was just applauding.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's good to hear. It's good to doing this. It's good to hear a voice. You know, my dog is sitting here wondering why am I talking to him for 45 minutes. Thank you, Elsie.
You're welcome.
This was originally for the faculty webinar, the presentation, meeting in January. And the original presentation I had, I was really happy because I had some people from the undergraduate school in different departments that came together and said, we'd like to see this, we'd like to see that. It was almost, well, I can't do all that in 45 minutes, but let me see how I can carry it to everyone. So I was hoping that did come across with something that everyone can use.
Yes, good. Well, it looks like we had a lot of great suggestions from you today. So thank you, Yvette, for sharing all this.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone, for attending. Goodbye for now, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.